just run.
Are you still breathing? Breathe into my hands. I'll come like the best to drink from. Breathe into my hands. I'll come like the best to drink from.
My name is Peter, and my daughter is a homosexual. Hello, Peter.
Parents and friends of lesbians and gays. Yeah, so that is an hour and 20 minutes. It's a quick one, but isn't it awesome? Isn't it so iconic? You like just so campy, so cult classic. The type of films that I adore and that I love to show here on the stream. And I think obviously the film is it's very heavy on being comedic, but of course it has like the reality of when you remove all the absurdity and the over the top everything from this film. What they're talking about is, the commentary here is very real. And Peacefire Now, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you. Welcome in, everyone. Unfortunately, this is something where these fuck-ass camps still exist today. Like, there's still conversion therapy that's being carried out. There are still these just this societal repression that we all live under per dictating gender norms. Obviously, a big part of this film is the use of color to portray to portray this repression, to portray like absurd gendered expectations. Girls are in pink. It's very like 1950s Housewives. Boys are in blue. And it strips you of your identity. And like everything is the same and everything is very rigid and it looks ridiculous. Like, okay, pink equals girl. Blue equals boy. And then you see like when Zuko's in full gay living his best life. Yeah, when you see him and he's kicked out of the camp and then he lives with the elder gays who are a home for wayward gays. And he's wearing like his football jacket, and that's like also how gay, lesbian, bi, trans across the spectrum, there's like individual identity where some people like Zuko actually dresses in a more stereotypical, like what is deemed as masculine, but he gets to be true to himself as a gay man. Like he likes that jacket because he likes that jacket and not having to do any performance of masculinity. And it shows how performative gender roles are. Yeah. And how just absolutely ridiculous all this shit is. There's no look of being gay. And I love that line when one of the elder gays says, "Oh, honey, I can't teach you how to be a lesbian. Like you are. You just have to be who you are. There's no certain way because that's what you're supposed to do when you're straight. In a heteronormative society, there is one way to behave. There is one way to look as the straight teenager that they were trying to force her to be." And he's like, "No, this is just who you are. Like you are lesbian and you just have to be yourself. Like that's all you do." But they never got RuPaul out. It would be some time after that when a little show called Drag Race would emerge. So this is kind of this is sad, but one reason that Jamie Babbitt, who is the writer and director of the film, also just so what an audacious debut, just so bold, so subversive, so fun and funny. And one reason for that is because a lot of her friends had died in the 80s and 90s from the AIDS crisis. And the character in the film who leads the gay conversion camp, she and her like germophobia and cleanliness is supposed to be representative of the paranoia during the AIDS era. And so because Jamie Babbitt had lost so many people to AIDS, she wanted to make a film that was comedic, because sometimes you have to you always have to still be able to laugh and find joy. And a lot of gay and lesbian films had been, you know, obviously representation was still to kind of explode in this era in the 90s and into the 2000s with new queer media, with the new queer media era of cinema. But the representation to that point was just not a lot of what you see here in But I'm a Cheerleader. And so Jamie Babbitt went, I want to make a film that I want to watch and that I just haven't really seen before. And that's the beautiful thing about art. And people come from where they come from. They are who they are. And oftentimes they make something that is inspired by previous, artists who came before them. And in this case, John Waters, who has the nickname Pope of Trash. We have talked about John Waters before. We have watched John Waters' film, and John Waters was big inspiration for Jamie Babbitt. And his films are very subversive, very campy, very high satire, very absurd, very colorful and in your face. And he is the, as I said, self-appointed Pope of Trash. Like, he loves to elevate trash and really, really lean into the camp of everything. And his films were often despised by mainstream critics, of course, because when you are a person who is making subversive art, when you are challenging norms, when you're challenging expectations, when you make people feel uncomfortable, you are always going to be met with backlash from what is representative of the mainstream. Like, that is why you are subverting, because you are going against what is typical. And so same here, as I've mentioned a couple times, this was a film that was critically ripped apart. Like, this is a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is wild. 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's the type of film where, like, if you Google But I'm a Cheerleader and you don't know anything about this film, you don't know anything about the circumstances and the context, you would go, oh, that's probably a bad movie. I don't want to watch it at all. And then you watch it, you're like, wait, what? That's crazy. Meanwhile, it's 4 to 5 stars on Letterboxd. Yes. And meanwhile, it has had an almost 30-year long cult classic status, because this is a film that, for people who saw it when it came out, when the right people see it and the right people understand it, a film, the audience that this film is meant to reach, they will hold it up as like a holy grail. This to them is like one of the commandments of, like, it's like one of the holy icons of queer media. And I think too, what this film does is, I always look at a film coming out when it did, and for it to be subversive in the ways that it was for this film to depict gay, lesbian, trans, non or bisexual and diverse. Like, not every person in here is white. This is not just a white gay or white lesbian film. There is diversity of sexuality, diversity of race. And it's like almost still subversive by today's standard as well. The fact that all of these are positive depictions is something that still makes this film a standout even today. I truly think this is my favorite film of all time. This is the first time I'm seeing it. I truly have never seen such representation of how queer people get put down by insecure queer people. The fact that people rate this movie horribly just shows how homophobic our society was and still is. Yeah, and one part of the film that that I think is really meaningful is when they're discussing roots, right? What's your root? And essentially that's, hey, what's the thing that made you gay? And once you identify it, then we can do the work of making you ungay. And because it's so absurd, it's like, oh, I'm from France, right? Like, oh, circumcised. It's pointing out that there's no like thing that happens to you in life, especially when they point to things being like traumatizing, that makes you gay. Like, you are gay because that's how you were born. you were born gay. It's just a matter of when you discover that. And if you don't grow up in a supportive environment, your identity, if it goes against the norms of a heteronormative society, then it will not be encouraged. And so maybe you won't get to discover who you really are until much, much later in life. Or maybe you start discovering it and you are forced to hide away. And the recognition that Clea Duvall's character has, where she's like, look, we're gay. There's no changing that. It's just a matter of how well you can hide it. And I love too how they subvert where it's Natasha Lyonne at the end who comes to rescue her, you know, who dresses up in her cheerleader outfit. And she's like, look, just because I'm gay, it doesn't mean that I want to stop being a cheerleader. It's like, yeah, you can keep being a cheerleader. You can do anything. You can dress any way. You can be anything, because being lesbian doesn't mean, you know, being gay doesn't mean you have to exist in any box. That's the whole point, is throwing out the box, knocking the walls of the box down. Also, Graham said she wanted to see her cheerlead. Yeah, and Graham is like, you know, she's rebellious. She's the bad girl type vibe with the, you know, leather jacket and eyeliner and stuff. But then she says to her, she's like, I don't hate cheerleading. I think maybe I'm just jealous that you love something so much. Where it even then dismantles that, where it's like, oh, here you have kind of these stereotypes of different type of gay and lesbian characters. But then this overall messaging that there's always fluidity, you know, just because you're a punk girl doesn't mean you have to hate cheerleading. And that's the recognition she has, where she's like, I think I'm just jealous that you love something so much. It's not that I actually am like hating you for loving cheerleading, because I think cheerleading is stupid. And then she does the whole cheer at the end and she gets the girl. That's one of the most important things I learned from transitioning, like finding my personal conception of femininity that makes me happy. Absolutely. And I just want to pull up this piece here. So in the late 90s, which is when this film comes out, we talked about this being the beginning of a renaissance for queer cinema. The era of new queer cinema that started around here, went into the 2000s. And this was a big moment in particular for lesbians because there was increased visibility, increased activism, a lot of breakthroughs in the mainstream that had not previously existed. Lesbians played a pivotal role in the broader LGBTQ rights movement, fighting for recognition, acceptance, and equality. They organized and participated in protests, pride marches, and advocacy campaigns to challenge societal norms and fight against discrimination and homophobia. One significant aspect of lesbian culture in the late 90s was the emergence of lesbian-centered spaces, both online and offline. The internet provided a platform for connection and community building, enabling lesbians to connect with one another, share experiences, and foster a sense of belonging. The entertainment industry also played a crucial role in the increased visibility of lesbian representation. Films like Bound, But I'm a Cheerleader depicted lesbian relationships and experiences, reaching wider audiences and challenging traditional narratives. And I also what I appreciate about this film is that it is about queer joy, and it is not interested in depicting it's not one that wants you to feel empathy for these queer characters by having them brutalized, having a hate crime happen to them, having something that's really something that's really in your face traumatizing. Now obviously the parents, the structures around them that are oppressing them, that is trauma, of course. That is inflicting pain and trauma on these young people who are being told that there's something wrong with them and that they have to fix it, or else they are bad and they will be rejected from society. They will be rejected from their families. But that it is a film that by and large is very comedic and is not wanting you to experience empathy and joy for these characters by having really bad shit happen to them that they are able to survive. Well, most of them. Yeah, it doesn't want to get into any trauma porn. We must show woman being raped to show her struggle. Gay man being beaten for being gay. Moreover, lesbian musicians and artists started gaining mainstream recognition during this period. Artists like Katie Lang, Melissa Etheridge, and the Indigo Girls found commercial success while openly embracing their lesbian identities, paving the way for future queer artists. Here's the famous Ellen cover. Time magazine. Yep, I'm gay. Ellen DeGeneres explains why she's coming out. Catherine Angel was featured on the cover of, this was a very, very famous Newsweek cover, the June 21st, 1993 issue of Newsweek. The article was about how stereotypical butch lesbians were often more identified by the general population, while lipstick lesbians who had a more feminine presentation were often able to blend in without drawing attention. The story primarily aimed to introduce straight people to the world of lesbians. This cover was one of Newsweek's top 100 issues ever sold and sold out both nationally and internationally within the first few hours on the newsstands. Later, more magazines covered lesbians not just to show that they can look boyish, but that any woman can be gay, even if they wore dresses. Any woman can be gay. Overall, the late 90s marked a significant turning point for lesbian culture as visibility and representation increased, creating space for lesbian voices to be heard, celebrated, and integrated into the mainstream. This progress laid the foundation for further advancements and continued efforts towards inclusivity and equality in the years to come. Anyone can be gay. Very inspiring. Yes. Cayenne, thank you for the gifted. This movie was so good. Would have loved to see this when I was growing up. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those films that you can imagine some young person seeing this when it comes out and how like it might have changed their life. This might have been a film where they had never seen anything like this before. Maybe they're like Natasha Lyonne's character where they don't yet know they're gay. Like they have not understood what that means. They have not reached step one. They have not reached step one in identifying that they're homosexual. But I think films that show queer joy in a way that this film does, that is very funny, that is very campy. I think that kind of media is really, really, really important for not just queer people, but for all people to show all of that. And in this film, because it's so absurd, because it really, really goes over the top with the satire, it's making a very clear point that this homophobic bullshit is stupid. It is ridiculous. It is so oppressive. It does not work. Okay, you send a bunch of gay kids to a gay conversion camp. They're only going to get more gay. All right, they are going to get more gay. And they will either then just be faced with maybe splitting from their families. It's like, okay, that is the experience of a lot of queer people. They are off on their own in this world. As soon as they leave the house, that's it. Or they are repressed. And one of the things that Jamie based this film off of was an article she read about a guy who had gone to one of these conversion camps and all he got was further self-hatred. He came back and he wasn't straight, of course. He was still gay. He just hated himself even more because he was still gay. And this did not work because it does not work because you cannot take the gay out of someone. You cannot force somebody to be something that they are not. I mean, you can try, and societal structures and attitudes are largely on your side, but a person on the inside they will always be who they are because it's not a choice. It's not a real choice. And so anyway, so this guy wrote this piece on his experience at having to go through one of these conversion camps and just how much self-hatred he had. And so she used that. Her mother had worked at a halfway house for like people who had drugs and alcohol addiction. And so initially she had conceptualized a film that was kind of like a comedic film about rehab, like 12-step programs. And then she read this piece and then she started thinking about this film that depicts these conversion camps. And what better way to point out how absurd something is by leaning into the absurdity, by going so over the top that you're laughing at it because it's so ridiculous. This idea that, oh, we're going to enforce these very rigid gender roles and expectations, and all you have to do is follow these steps and you will no longer be gay. Makes me think of that poor kid that went viral for loving Lady Gaga. Now he's in denial. Yeah, I mean, it is as much comedy as there is in this film. There are the very sobering moments. There are the very real moments that reminds you of what all is underneath here, what all is still happening in our society, and that we still have a lot of progress to be made. And despite steps forward that we have taken that have been fought for, that have been hard fought for, there are still so many cultural attitudes that are reinforcing these really strict, very oppressive, very boring, very stupid ideas of how we should be based on our gender and based on our sexuality, and still trying to force things onto people, put people into boxes. And what this film shows you is like, it's so much more fun when you are free, and to be free, you cannot exist in any kind of box. There can be no box, and it's so much better. Like, you get to, when they get to the scene with the elder gays, and you see Zuko, I can't remember his character name. You see him, and he's like so at ease. He's wearing his Letterman jacket. He's like, "Oh my God, what's up?" Well, Dante's the actor's name. But yeah, it's like, oh, it's so chill. It's so, it's like the least, the most even keeled the film feels, because it's removed all the artificiality. Like, you see the authenticity. You feel it in that scene. Even with the one girl who quits because people just assume she's gay. Yes, I think is obviously I would say, trans boy. And that's why potentially non-binary, potentially trans, in that world where I'll use they say, like, I like balls, I like boys, I like dick, and everyone's kind of like, huh, because of the concept of being a person who is actually sexually straight but is trans. Like, not every trans person is gay, because a lot of trans people identify as heterosexual, because their gender is not the equivalent of, like, being trans doesn't automatically make you gay. So I thought that was, representation in 1999 that you just really, we didn't have a lot of. And anyway, so whether or not they're trans, they don't fit into boxes, and people just can't handle that for some reason. Yeah, and I think as we have progressed, we've started to go, oh, there's not just restrictive boxes that exist in a heteronormative world, that even in queer society, even in the LGBTQ world, there are still sometimes people who work in binaries who still put up those boxes, even if it's now a different kind of box, I'm a gay trans dude, and the amount of people who tell me to just be a straight woman is infuriating. You're like, if you do the math here, isn't it just the same as being a straight woman? You're like, that's not how that works. Do you think that this is like, oh, to get to 4, you can do 2 + 2 or 3 + 1? It's also important to remember that these are not real people. They're characters, constructs that are testing out ideas, concepts, and contradictions. Yes, and this is a very absurdist, campy, satirical film. So there are a lot of, like, stereotypes that are leaned into, that are played up on. I also think the fact that the camp leader she is an older lesbian woman who, as I said, is somebody who's gone through something like this and now is in the position of is like enforcing it on others. And it's like that conversion camp I said my friend's mom runs, the therapy group, where people who go through it then become the ones who run this group or go like recruit or go do the marketing and the advertising, the videos that say, hey, I am a successful convert and you too can be just like me. Yes, we are the ones who've been cured. I am living proof that this works, that conversion therapy works. Yeah, she's a lesbian woman with a gay son. Yeah, and then also the mentioning of Graham's, played by Claire Duvall, her mother, who was gay as well and left because not a lot of options at a time period like that where, again, gay marriage was years off. Gay panic was still a common legal defense. There was so much anti-gay legislation where you had don't say gay, stuff like that. Don't ask, don't tell. So that, like, I can't imagine being a lesbian woman, a gay woman in that time period where in order to be free, your only option is to leave. Because the other thing too is that the courts were homophobic. It's like that would hurt you in trying to get in trying to say get custody of your children, that being gay would be used against you. Honestly, my dad came out to my mom just after I was born. They got divorced when I was 2. Then he lived his life as an openly gay man and started to go to school. My mom tried to find a church that would accept us. It really stunned me as a kid because how could people be so prejudiced and dumb? Became a school conversation kindergarten when I showed my family tree because they said I would be contagious and I was exposing other kids to homosexuality. Yeah. Yeah, you know how gay is a virus and don't get too close because people will catch it. Not even you being gay, your father. Oop. Genetic. You never know. You know, they were around them for a long time, so they could have picked it up. The L Word premiered about 5 years later and also made huge strides for mainstream queer representation. Yes, and Jamie Babbitt went on to direct episodes of L Word, has directed a lot of TV. I've been waiting for a girly pop movie night, and I love this movie. So glad chat got to see it. I would also love to do some other lighthearted ones like Drop Dead Gorgeous, Sugar and Spice, Twang Fu, and BAP if you haven't. I don't think I've done any of those yet, but one reason that I love to show cult classics here on the stream is that often, well, first of all, they're so fun. They're just really, really fun and enjoyable. And also, I care very much about the time period that films come out in, the kind of social and political context surrounding a film. Like when it came out is often just as important as like what's in the film itself and how that can inform you as to like why films like these have a very special place in film history and for queer audiences. And I just think that I think these are always ones that you should watch even nowadays, even decades after, because I think that there's still value, so much value to get out of these films. And I think it's important too to like know your history, you know, understand understand your history, know like what films were groundbreaking because they were subversive, how you know, I was like, I like to think about someone in 1999 who was maybe on the cusp on the cusp of adulthood and really figuring out who they are, and seeing this film and it meaning everything to them, watching it and just being transfixed, and not believing that a film like this exists. Like, I think that is such a special thing. And that is how powerful this medium can be. It can truly like, it can truly, the one film can change somebody's life. You know, it can be the thing that they always will point to and go, I will never forget when I watched this film. And it was the first time that I had seen anything like this. I'd ever seen any representation of this kind. Growing up in a conservative family, there's no way I could have watched these films. Thank you for showing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, well, I didn't really have TV and stuff. A lot of this stuff I discovered like in high school and college. So that's, I think there's probably, you know what it is too? It's like most people, when the films that mean so much to them, they probably watched it in secret. It was like, oh yeah, my friends and I, you know, we got together one night and we found this movie at the video store, and that was how we discovered this film. I literally watched this with my friends at a sleepover in high school while I was in the midst of realizing I was gay, and it made such a difference in my life. Like, I will never forget watching Jawbreaker for the first time, watching Jennifer's Body for the first time with my high school friends. And it was like not the kind of thing I would have watched with my with my family, where, oh, let's put on the family movie. Yeah, we would go to the video store, rent a movie, and or you know, something came out in theaters, we would sneak into theaters if something was rated R. Sometimes we would theater hop, or you would buy a ticket to something, maybe even go watch that and then go hop somewhere else. Yeah, Jawbreaker is everything is peachy fucking keen. Little off topic, but is there a lot of asexual representation in pop culture? Because I've struggled with sexuality all my life, thinking I got to be either gay or straight, but I've never felt urged to do anything sexually. Didn't realize until recently that's not always the case. Asexuality is something that I think it hasn't been until recently that there have been open like discourse in the mainstream, like people talking about it online. I think a lot of people have a pretty basic understanding of what asexual is. I think a lot of people assume like, oh, asexual means that you have no sexual, like you are not sexual at all. It's like very absolutist in it's almost like people think it being the opposite of being hypersexual. So it is still very underrepresented. I think sometimes when I'm watching something, a character will feel asexual coded. There's definitely literature out there, people who have been writing on the topic. So I think it's still one that people are in the kind of newish stages of starting to really understand and see represented in media. Gets very robot coded in characters if it's not the hyper opposite vibe. I might be asexual, but I'm still not sure, even though I'm in my mid 20s. That's okay. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I think that there are sometimes women who are with sometimes it can be the opposite, where you think you're asexual because you're with somebody who is terrible for you, is not somebody who actually you are sexually invigorated by. It's like sometimes women getting married really young and married to guys who, you know, if they're coming from like small town conservative world, and they think like, oh, I must be asexual because I don't really love having sex with my husband, because he just kind of dry pumps me and then that's it. And I've never had an orgasm. Like, it's I've never had an orgasm with this man, so I must be asexual. And then when maybe you gain sexual experiences, when you have an orgasm for the first time, you're like, oh, maybe it's not that I'm actually asexual. It's just that I had not had an orgasm before, or now I had an orgasm with that person, and my sexual needs weren't being met. So whatever it is, like, I think life is always discovering who you are. And sometimes you might think so certainly, and then you get older and you like you realize that it's actually not the case. Like, for some people too, when they have trauma, they might then assume one thing about something to be true about them, when in reality there's something that occurred in their life that that has affected them thinking that they are not sexually interested, like that they have no sexual drive, nothing. Just explore it. It might fit, it might not, it might be temporary, it might not be. Just be kind and flexible with yourself. Yeah. I think that's all you can do, is have grace for yourself, have patience. Experimentation is great. Like, it's important. I think everybody should experiment with yourself as well, you know. Asexuality is a spectrum. Allow yourself to take on labels that feel truly to you in the present. There was I remember in college when I would try to encourage women to get vibrators. I'd be like, learn how to masturbate. learn how to touch yourself. Learn how to give yourself pleasure, because these guys aren't giving it to you, and you're probably just, when you're younger like that, when you're inexperienced, you don't really know how to advocate for your own self, for your own pleasure. You can't learn what you like. So a lot of times it's like, gotta go on a solo journey. Love yourself, literally. Yeah. Permission to hit the vibe, Big C? Permission granted. Period. And that's that. What last thoughts on this film? Love the use of color. Very, very garish coloring for the strong visual imagery in the storytelling. Yeah. The color blocking. it's so absurd. And it just shows like how deeply entrenched these stupid fucking signifiers are in our culture. Why is it still that one of the first things we learn is pink is for girls, blue is for boys? And that's it. That's all. John Waters, but girly pop. Yeah. Yep. Well. Okay, thank you for the gifted. Well, I think that's what I got on that. And I also love that, like, when this film came out, it was the same year, around the same time as Fight Club. Like, I just think of this year, 1999. Fight Club comes out, Matrix comes out. 1999 is considered one of the greatest years of cinema. What a year for film. And don't want to forget this one. Phantom Menace came out in 99. Crazy. Absolutely crazy year for cinema. Yeah, and then there was this little film, But I'm a Cheerleader. And it was groundbreaking representation. It was unabashedly funny. It wanted to be funny. It wanted to be a film that was like loud and bold and absurd and very, very over the top. Truman Show too, right? Truman Show came out in 1998. 1998. Yeah, and I already said this, but Jamie Babbitt said she wanted to make a gay Clueless because Clueless was also a big film in the 90s that came out in 1995, which just had such a massive, massive influence on culture. Still a relevant film. Virgin Suicide. When was Virgin Suicide? Was that 90s? No, that was that was 99. God. 1999. And we were all worried that the Y2K virus would wipe out the world because clocks wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, isn't that wacky to think that so many people on New Year's Eve, 1999 going to 2000, straight up thought the world was ending. They're like, oh, that's it. It's over. So I guess we might as well go out partying big time. American Beauty came out. Yeah. Yep. 1999 as well. All right, y'all. I am I'm going to call it there. I know it's kind of a little bit of a shorter stream for what I normally do, but I have been sleeping terribly. I have not been sleeping well, and so I would like to start off this next week feeling rested. I'm like, please, for the love of God. I hate taking sleep aids because they always make me feel really, really tired the next day. But my anxiety has been, and then when I am sleeping terribly, my anxiety just gets worse. It's kind of the paradox, right? Where when you have anxiety and then you're not able to sleep, and then it just makes you more anxious. You're like, ha, 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 ha. So I'm going to go try to get a good night of rest so we can start off the week strong. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you for joining. If this was your first time, a weighted blanket. Yeah, the problem is that it's been really hot in Los Angeles. So like when I wake up, I'm in a just pile of sweat, but I do love weighted blankets. I think we have one somewhere. I'm so tired that I'm like, surely I'm going to fall asleep and stay asleep tonight. Surely. But we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. If this was your first time joining for dinner and a movie, we do this every Sunday. I always do film class and then try and do cooking streams when I can. And yeah, go lesbians. Let's go lesbians. Let's go and never stop going. Let's go and never stop going. And with it being 1.5 hours left here on the West Coast for International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to all my women out there. All of y'all. That includes our trans sisters. Includes all women. You cannot spell women without W. Happy Women's Day to the mother of all women. Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you so much. Protect the duals always. We are all in this together because there's a lot of men out there who hate all of us. Just remember that. Even if you are a cisgender woman, men who hate trans women, they don't respect you as a cis woman. They don't see you as a human being. They just see you as a tool to aid in oppressing you. That's how they see you. So you better stand by your trans sister's side because you have so much more in common with trans women than you do with these fuck-ass, misogynistic, transphobic men who you are not on the team with and you never want to be on that team. Because you are a second-class citizen to them. And they are using you to ensure that hierarchy remains. And just because you then turn around and can oppress trans women, it doesn't give you power. It doesn't stop making you a second-class citizen. It does not give you, it does not stop men from stripping you of your humanity and your rights. Okay, ladies? So just remember that. All right. I am going to send you guys over to Miss Janice Winters, who looks like is doing film night as well. So we'll just keep the film class going. How about that? All right. There we go. And I will see you all, as I said, tomorrow. So be well until then. And thank you, as always, for being here and being a part of this amazing community. All of y'all are the best. And I'll see you on the next International Women's Day next year. Thank you for these nights. They legit make my life better. I got you. Goodbye.